because they try to enter the kingdom of their own strength. I was seeing this when Brian was talking earlier. You want to know why Jesus says 7 times 7? Forgive 7 times 70. Well, when Cain kills Abel, this is when God commands the first time he commands forgiveness. He says, basically, in my words, the whole world has to forgive Cain, or they will be avenged sevenfold. Isn't that wild? It doesn't say it that way, but that's what he's saying. He's saying if anyone seeks vengeance on Cain, vengeance will come on them sevenfold. He's saying everyone has to forgive him. And then Jesus here says, Lamech later, he kills a guy, and he says if it's sevenfold vengeance on Cain, it's 70-fold on me. Everyone has to forgive me. This is the language of a world with sin. This is the only way it works, is forgiveness. You get to Jesus and he says, forgive 7 times. You must forgive 7 times 7, 7 times 70. So 7 to the Jews is completion, right? The word shava means to be complete. It also means, it's the root for the name Elizabeth, your sister Elizabeth. Elishabat, because shava means, it means 7, and when they would make an oath, they would make it 7 times. So it was complete. So 7 means completion. Why? Because God finished. He rested on the 7th day. Creation was finished on the 7th day. So 7 times 10, 10 to the Jews is the law, 10 commandments. 7 times 10. The completion or the perfection of the law is forgiveness. That's why Jesus comes in. He just gives you righteousness. He gives you his righteousness. Because St. Paul says in Corinthians, he says, when you come under the letter of the law, you are condemned. You cannot achieve righteousness. What is righteousness? It is right relationship. It's communion. It's letting God have your heart. Come and rest your head on my heart. It's breaking my heart because my whole life I've kept him. Keep him. Ooh, not in that place of pain. We actively keep God away from the places of pain in our heart with our own will. It also says in Corinthians, 3:17, I think it is, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. So where you feel a lack of freedom, you are actively keeping God 3 inches away from that spot in your heart. You need a little bit of space there because it's a place of pain. And okay, so your heart, let's just switch back to your heart. The perfection of the law is forgiveness. I had my wife, and my wife's watching on Zoom, Annie, and she's suffered a lot lately. She's a woman of faith. We had this moment where I don't know if we had a fight or something, but then we had this moment of reconciliation, and it was like, instead of going toe-to-toe and figuring each thing out, we both just forgave. And in that embrace that came from the forgiveness, I just saw written in my spirit, the perfection of the law is forgiveness. Oh, my gosh. If you want to write down all the reasons, there's going to be a long list of them. How can she and I make a way forward? Through forgiveness. It's the only way. And the release in my heart as we held each other was heaven. Absolute heaven. Forgiveness, freedom through forgiveness. Why do I forgive? Because I should give the person the benefit of the doubt? No. Jesus said, unless you forgive, neither will the Father forgive you. Right after he taught us the Our Father. I forgive because Jesus forgives me. You've forgiven me, I'll forgive you. And we can have communion. We can commune. I can love and receive love. So perfection when Jesus talks about be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. That word in Greek, in the New Testament, it's all Greek, right? Greek is, it's my belief that Greek is, it's the new wine. It's the sons of Yavan. Yavan are the Greeks. Yavan is very etymologically related to yayin, which is wine, and Yonah, which is Jonah. So the new wine is the sons of Yavan. It's Greek. That's why the New Testament is written in Greek. Isn't that wild? So this is my own conjecture, because I asked the Lord. I ask him these things. Something strikes my heart. I ask him. And then 6 months later, he reveals it. And I see it. I'm like, wow. Nothing will be revealed. Jesus said nothing that is hidden will not be revealed. Everything that is hidden will come into the light. He said it. God doesn't withhold mystery from us, but he gives to those who will value it. Okay? In Hebrews 5, he cried out to the one who could save him, and he was heard because of his reverence. That word in Greek, reverence, it's eulabeo. Eu means good, and labeo comes from lambano, which means to receive with initiative. You're receiving something that you've asked for. So they describe it in the lexicon like walking through a room holding a mink vase. You've received something that you value, so you carry it very carefully. He was heard because he valued what would be given to him. This is so important. Why don't I hear the voice of God? Why is his whisper so quiet? Because if he was just speaking loud and clear and everything was perfectly, if I didn't value that and let it shape my life, I'd be culpable, right? I'd be culpable. So he gives us tiny little things to steward, and as you steward that, then he gives you more. Then he gives you more so that so he's not just throwing his pearls before swine and luring you into sin, right? To value it. Everything will be given to you. Whatever you want to know from the Lord, he will tell you. And I tell my pilgrims this all the time. Don't put pressure on that moment. Ask the Lord. If he gives you something right away, fantastic. If he doesn't, you say, Lord, you have all week. Persuade me. Take me on a story. He's the storyteller. He will write a story through that week or through the rest of the month. Whoa, and you will learn it like experientially, and you will never forget it. It'll be written into, you'll know it. Yada, know, like intimately know it. Okay, so where was I? Getting back to... So the heart, the places in your heart where you keep the Lord up. This is my belief for you guys tonight. If there's something you walk away with, that Jesus, the Son of Man has no place to rest his head. Birds have nests, foxes have dens. But the Son of Man has no place. And I see this over and over again because I see it when I pray with people. He's yearning to rest his head on your heart. Your heart's like this pillow. It's a resting place. It's a dwelling place for him. And he created you to be a dwelling place. It's your heart. The interior castle. It's what does the catechism say? It says that your heart is beneath your psychic drives. You can't get there. You can't reason your way down it. You can't navigate with your psyche. It's something God. The catechism also says it's the place of encounter. That's where you encounter God. It's in your heart. We look for him over here. We look for him out there. It's in here. This is where he wants to talk to you. Go here. This is an ancient phrase from the church. Silentium est mater omnia beata. Silence is the mother of all graces. Why? The Hebrews worshipped a silent God and invisible. It's crazy for ancient man. Think about it. Ancient man worshipped a statue or a mountain or the lightning or the sun, something of power. The Hebrews worshipped a silent and invisible God that revealed himself here. Because the Hebrew, Judeo-Christian revelation of God is not man trying to understand himself in the cosmos, like, the sentient question, like, why do I exist? It is, every other ancient religion is some kind of mythology to answer this question. Man's seeking to understand who he is and why he exists. But Christianity is different. The Judeo-Christian revelation of God, it's God's initiative. It was heaven down. He reveals. I keep feeling the Lord tap me, and some of you have heard some of these stories before, so I apologize. But so last year, I was reading the reading for the day. I was at Mass, and I'm reading the Gospel, and it says, it was last year. It said, Jesus beat the money changers and threw them out of or he didn't beat them, but he threw them all out, and he overturned the tables. And the Pharisees come and they say, like, he says to them, tear down this temple and I will rebuild it in 3 days. And it says, in parentheses, he was referring to the temple of his body. And they said, this temple has been under construction for 46 years. And that just jumped out at me. It was just highlighted, and I felt the Lord tap me on the shoulder, and he said, Mike, he's like, do the math. I was like, do the math? What does that mean? He's like, do the math. How old are you, Mike? It's like, I'm 45. This says 46. And he said, when's your birthday, Mike? So I counted. My birthday was in exactly 9 months from that moment. So I was conceived 46 years within a few days or within a week or two of that reading. 46 years. It became real to me. This temple had been under construction for 46 years. This temple. We think of it as his body. He is the true man. In him was life, and his life is the light of men. You are the light of the world. What's true for Jesus is true for me. That's crazy. What's true for Jesus is true for me. That's nuts. But it's true. So, as I prayed into it, I just saw, and the Lord highlighted some different Greek words, like the word for the whip. He made this whip. It took him a couple hours to weave this thing together. It comes back one other time during the scourging. The word for the cords that he used to make the whip comes back only when St. Paul is stranded on a boat, and and the Lord gives him a word of knowledge. If anyone leaves and tries to escape, then everyone will die. So everyone has to stay. So he tells the Roman guards this. They trust him because they know this guy has something more. And the sailors say, well, we need to inspect the hull. So they're going to climb down and get in the lifeboats to inspect the hull, but they were actually trying to save themselves. To save themselves. And the Roman soldiers cut the cords. The cords that's the same thing that Jesus used to make the whip. When you have money changers in your temple, you are trying to save yourself. I have not arrived, but when I arrive, then you can have my heart, Jesus. That's some kind of transaction. But transaction is not love. I was driving down the highway, and the Lord revealed to me, he's just poured favor on me. Poured it on, okay? Funding the ministry. He gave me a brand new car. He's just been pouring this favor on. And I was just in tears. By the way, anyway. I was just crying, okay? Because the Lord showed me how when he had tested me, I failed. failed. I didn't succeed. I didn't pass the test. I was like, why are you doing that? Why are you giving this all to me when I failed? And you know what he said to me? He said, it's precisely because you failed. If you hadn't, if you passed the test, then you might think that you had arrived. I need you to see that you failed. I need you to see it. So when Jesus was scourged, he was suffering a suitable or complementary suffering for our transactional love, for the way that we try to save ourselves. He was literally, that's that flagellum in Greek. They were beating the money changers out of the temple. Isn't that amazing? This temple, me and you. He was suffering for us, for our transactional love. Jesus is saying, put it down. Put it down. Let me love you now. You're never going to arrive. As soon as you come under the law, condemnation. Forgiveness is the perfection of the law. Because right relationship is righteousness. Righteousness means communion. Oh, that's why your venial sin in the catechism, your venial sin is washed away when you go to communion. Because the opposite of sin is not somehow doing it right. The opposite of sin is being in communion, is letting God love you and returning love. That's what he wants. So he precisely loves sinners, because sinners can't arrive. They can't get there. I did not come for the righteous. I came for sinners. Wow. That qualifies you right there, right? We're all like, you are just fertile ground for love. The Lord, he just wants you to let him love you. Let him pour his favor on you. I saw those pilgrims coming in that church, and my God, I'm going to cry again. They were so holy. They didn't know it. They didn't know how holy they were. And every one of them was just, my God, they were a treasure. Every one of them an eternal treasure. It broke my heart. I started weeping. Oh my gosh. Wow. So I feel like the Lord wants to say to you tonight, you are holy. You're not holy because you arrived. You are holy because you are deeply loved and desired. He desires you. He thirsts. And he thirsts for you. The Lord's been changing my prayer. I heard this phrase, prayer is wasting time with God. Wasting time. Isn't that fantastic? Wasting time with God. I just love it. It's impacted me so much. When I go into prayer, I want to get work done. I want to figure out, what lies do I believe, Lord? What judgments am I postured in my heart? Because I do a lot of inner healing with people. Laura and I pray inner healing, and my wife and I pray inner healing with people all the time. It's unbelievable. We see miracles. We have people who, we have a developmental psychologist on our board. She says, Mike, that